You're listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You throw down $5 on any of these NFL games coming up this week, you get $280 in free plays. All right. We helped you make money last week. We're going to do that a little bit later on. We've got Tony's takes coming up without Tony Gimino here. But Arizona wins 85-57. Hop on in, everybody. KB Thiel's setting it off right now with Sheesh. Umar was special tonight. We will get to that in just a moment. Anthony Humbert with the Ballo and Pella, but Schuster. This game to me was very important on a couple fronts. Obviously, Stanford's not very good, at least compared to Arizona. Stanford's not very good, but Arizona rolled, and Arizona had depth. Or Arizona's bench players really started to show out. Umar Ballo had probably the best game of his career, and he's had a couple really nice ones so far. Pella Larson is starting to round into form there a little bit. Obviously, we know about Kyer coming off the bench. This to me was really a game, Shu, where you looked at it and you looked at the bench and said you needed a contribution from them, and you got it from three different guys.
And a couple of the folks have already mentioned this that you've highlighted already, and I think that's the story of tonight's game, and it's a nice situation for Arizona to have. There's one of these threads. We're off to a good start already. This is going to be fun.
Love you, Cody.
Anyway, there are a lot of. I think this was an Olsen-ism. Something about how you would be in a situation where if you played better competition on a day-to-day basis in practice, that made some of the bench players ultimately improve their game as well. And then a couple weeks later, as the season moves along, you'd be more comfortable with the depth that you've had. And this was an example of a depth game tonight where Ballo played phenomenally while Coloco had 4 fouls or was in foul trouble for much of the game. And with Tubelis on the sideline, and Mike, if you have any more information on where Tubelis, what his situation is, passing that along would be great as the show progresses.
No, I'm just going to sit on it if I know, I'm just going to sit on it and not pass it along. Yeah, well, we're efforting right now on that.
You're that kind of person, I know.
Right.
Nevertheless, getting more depth from those players and the performance of Kyer as well. Arizona's bench looked really good tonight, and you have to feel pretty good about what the Cats can do with that sort of thing. I know Ballo is rightfully going to get a lot of the headlines tonight, but I thought Larson was excellent tonight. And the improvement that he's made over the course of the last couple weeks, I think is noteworthy. And it gives Arizona another ball handler on the perimeter and a guy who's comfortable in this offense. And it seems like maybe there was a little bit of the foot injury that slowed things up a little bit. Then, the transfer perhaps played. Maybe some other guys advanced over him a little bit, and there was some confidence that worked into that. But he has looked a lot more comfortable over the course of the last couple of weeks, and that's something that Arizona fans, I think, really ought to feel good about.
What it is to me, too, is the game doesn't look too fast for him anymore. Like early on in the season, it felt like he was moving at about 70% of where everybody else was on the court. It looked like he was a step behind. He looked uncomfortable. The last couple games, and especially this one, Shu, he looked like, and again, he's never going to be an all-American type player. Nobody's saying that. But he looked like a guy that can be a very valuable reserve from hitting the open shot. He's a much better passer than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He can definitely see like guys cutting to the hoop. He's pretty good in transition as far as making the right decision. This was another game where this was a real improvement for him, and maybe something too where you're just thinking to yourself that he just needed a little bit of time to get over the foot injury. Maybe he heard Mike Luke making fun of him. There's a lot of different things that he could have looked at and taken, some real. Well, you are
the maven of motivation. I think
I am a harbinger of truth.
And if you were if you were breaking down on Larson a little bit, I might be a little annoyed too. The Swedes don't take kindly to that. And understandably so. So I applaud your ability to motivate in front of and behind the scenes. By the way, kind of in passing, Tommy Lloyd got on the team a little bit this week for buying into its press clippings.
Mhm.
If this is an example of what Lloyd can do as a result of motivation, I'm not at all disappointed, and Wildcat fans shouldn't be either. This game tonight looked like Arizona was playing 8-on-5.
Right.
And could do whatever it wanted at any time, and just clearly dominated the performance. Most of the game they made Stanford look silly and frustrated.
Yeah. All right. So let's get to a bunch of comments. We already got a ton of comments, and that's what we like here. We love hearing from the fans out here. And KB's already got a couple things in here. Anthony Humbert, wise man as always. Ballo and Pella. Matt and Robbie checking in right here. A lot of people have mentioned your background already. A couple people have mentioned, you know what's fun about this Arizona team is that they can, and let's see here. We got Gene M mentioned this. They can go small, they can go big. You've got a lot of versatile options here. And you saw that from time to time too, where when you would go with Terry as maybe one of your big men, again, that won't work against Gonzaga or Duke, but you've got position flexibility here. And I'll tell you what, having Oumar Ballo really kind of, again, emerge not as an all-conference type guy, but he to me is the biggest surprise on the team. I was expecting, and as I've said before, I was expecting a guy that was going to be like a Gene Edgerson type or an Ira Lee that, big physical dude, and obviously he's taller, but a big physical guy, throws from shoulders, gets some rebounds. But he can do more. Like when he gets extended playing time, if he scores in double figures, it's not really a surprise. And he looks massive out there.
And I'm sure the folks going up against him notice just how massive he ultimately is. But one of the things I thought was kind of interesting, and maybe it's an Arizona philosophy versus some other teams. And tonight's game, kind of played into this a little bit. Look at Stanford's big men. And Arizona's scouting, I thought, was really interesting here. Arizona let every Stanford big man have an open 15-footer because they knew that they weren't going to take the shot or they weren't comfortable with the shot. Conversely, Arizona moved the ball around really well and had no qualms whatsoever about getting it inside to Ballo when he was available. And at the beginning of the year, and if you look at him generally, you're thinking, man, this guy's raw. He can, like you noted, Mike, he can beat some people up and he can move some bodies around and the rest of it, but it's not really a scoring threat. He's just kind of
he's a big dude. He's a big dude.
Who's probably better on the defensive end. He's going to get you some rebounds. He's going to be a hustle guy, which is all well and good. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, Arizona has confidence that this guy can play on the inside and be effective from a scoring standpoint. That's something that, and we've talked a lot about this with Koloko as well. Koloko doesn't have the best hands and so forth. And over the course of, that one period a few weeks ago, and we're going to get some better quality tier athletic games coming up. So maybe this still, remains a little bit of an issue. But Arizona doesn't seem concerned about anybody on the floor touching the ball at any given time. There seems to be enough confidence in the way that the offense flows and the way that the team responds that there doesn't seem to be this moment. It hasn't happened with Ballo. It hasn't happened with Koloko, sometimes to the frustration of the fan base, where it's just like, okay, if that guy's open, they're going to touch the ball. And if that guy's open, they're going to touch the ball. And it seems to create a confidence that maybe a lot of other big guys don't have at this stage, where they're just supposed to be guys around the perimeter. Arizona seems to have a lot more flexibility in that regard. And we saw a lot of it in dominant fashion tonight.
I got to give my guy John Schuster a lot of credit here. I like comparisons. Schuster doesn't like comparisons.
Although I want to get into an interesting comparison tonight that I'd like to break down at some point. But please proceed.
Okay. And Schuster said this, and I think it's spot on the more research that I've done on this. This team reminds John Schuster a lot of 87-88. I don't go back.
That was my comparison. You're absolutely right. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah. I don't go back that far. I only go back from 92, 93 on. I'm your man. But John Schuster from 1892 to 93 is your man. But Schuster, it's your theory, not mine. Go ahead. Throw it out there. What do you got?
Well, when the game gets a little bit lopsided, and you I've talked about this a little bit over the course of the last week. And the more that I look into the parallels, and again, nothing is exactly parallel. There are a lot of similarities here, including the coach who bounces on the scene and brings Arizona back from kind of, I want to say the dark ages necessarily, but definitely a downtime, Olsen did that. Snowden had run its course here, and then Olsen started to build a little bit. And when Arizona got onto the scene, they jumped onto the scene, and it was immediate. And they really haven't, for the most part, left since. Then, and I think that the Tommy Lloyd similarity, the way they play, Lute Olsen similarity, there are a lot of similarities in some of the specific players that I think are kind of interesting too. But I looked at some of the numbers.
Real quick. I had a couple people message. No, Schuster's been good. Schuster, I'm saying that I checked in at 92, 93. Schuster has been good from about 1892 to 93. Go ahead, Schu.
That's very nice of you to say. It's actually more like the 1600s, but after a while, it just all the centuries just kind of blend together.
Right.
And nevertheless, one of the numbers that caught my attention is the number of times that Arizona won games in 1988 by 20 points or more. Do you want to they were 33-3 that year, 34-3. Do you want to venture a guess on the number of times that Arizona won games by 20?
I'm going to say out of their 35 wins, not 34.
Thank you.
I'm going to say 35. I'm going to say that 22.
That's pretty close. It was 19.
Yeah, I figured it was something super high.
The 1988 team beat teams by 20 or more, not double-figure wins, 20 or more, 19 times that season. And their average margin of win was 21, 84-63.
Right.
85-64, somewhere in there. They were very impressive, and they beat the hell out of teams. This team does the same thing. And this has become, I think there was a number tonight that ESPN used that Arizona has led by at least 19 points in every Pac-12 game it's played this year. Now, whether that's going to continue based on the way the schedule amps up here in the next few days, probably not. But Arizona is definitely something to reckon with. And I feel like the way that they look has a lot of reminiscent similarities to what we saw in 88. And maybe, just maybe, it's a second honeymoon for Arizona basketball.
I messaged our guy, Matty M, during the game, Matt Muehlbach, to the common folk out there. And I told him what you said about 87, 88, and he loved it, especially in the front court. Now, it breaks down a little bit kind of at the shooting guard, point guard spot. I get what you're saying about Kerr is Kerr and Dalen Terry is Craig McMillan or whatever.
Maybe
but
Kenny Lofton,
yeah. But he absolutely loved, and we're going to get to all the Pella comments here in a second because you guys are spot on here. But he loved Ben Mathurin as Sean Elliott, as Tom Tolbert, Ąžuolas Tubelis, and Christian Coloco.
In the Anthony Cook mold,
as Anthony. I almost said Anthony Gimino, but
about the same. But mistake happens a lot.
He loved that. All right, real quick. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Great deal going on right now. You throw down $5 on an NFL game, and you get $280 in free plays if that hits. Now, let me get the disclaimer out so we can get you some money real quick. Arizona only, 21 and up. Eligibility restrictions do apply. New customer only. If you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. They'll get you on your feet and back to the DraftKings Sportsbook app. I love saying that. All right, here's my quick pick of the week. Everybody out there, if you're going to do this, take the Green Bay Packers to beat the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo is the quarterback for the 49ers. Go, Shu.
Garoppolo is 4-6 in games where he commits a turnover. Seems like there's a decent chance that could happen in weather and against what's been the best team in the NFC. I think the Rams are going to beat Tampa, and I think Buffalo's going to win at Kansas City.
Really? Okay, well, there you go. There's your DraftKings Sportsbook pick of the week.
Keep in mind, and a lot of folks in the scroll have noted this, I also thought that Stanford was going to cover, and the final would be about 78-73.
Oh, but it's...
So, disclaimer.
Right,
disclaimer.
All right.
Take it all for what it's worth.
Hello, Larson now, and Robbie mentioned this. Gene M mentioned this. Our guy Kobe Thiel mentioned this. He really is kind of a punching bag out there. You go out there, the guys always fall into the ground, and he had 3. And Robbie correctly pointed out that I didn't even know until she just messaged that he had 3 blocks today. I mean, is this going to kind of be the guy that he's going to always be hurt, but mainly because of how hard he's playing?
Well, now you've got 2 guys who fill a similar role, which maybe makes things a little bit difficult for the opposition. Is Kerr a better outside shooter? Yeah. But Larson, I think, is a lot more crafty and perhaps a little bit more athletic than we give him credit.
Yeah.
And now that he's coming into his own here, I think we're seeing maybe a little bit more of that. Had a really good defensive performance, got to the lane tonight whenever he wanted, which makes things really interesting because it opens up Arizona's passing game. There was a sequence tonight that I thought was really also interesting from an Arizona maturity standpoint. Krisa and I think it was Silva. There's about 13 minutes left in the game. It's already done. But Krisa and Silva get into a little snarling back and forth.
A fake skirmish.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you can tell coming out of the timeout, Krisa wants to hit the three. He wants to jack that 25-foot three-pointer just to stick it to Stanford. So they inbound the ball, and Krisa gets it. And what does he do? He fakes the 25-foot three-pointer, passes it to Larson. Larson fakes the three-pointer, moves into the lane. They find Ballo for a three-point play, traditional three-point play. That's maturity that maybe you don't necessarily always expect from any college basketball team or maybe some professional teams, but I thought it was a really nice microcosm of perhaps the direction that this team is going. You got a lot of pesky dudes on this team and a lot of people where it's easy for fans of the opposition not to like them very much. And Larson, I think, is slowly moving into that category, although Kreese is obviously going to be the main punching bag here.
This made me laugh. Gene M says, DT Dalen Terry is my X factor. Pella is mostly forgettable except for getting his butt drop kicked frequently.
Gene. Gene. Although Terry does a lot. Terry give Arizona again. One of the things that we forget, and I know at this stage we really aren't forgetting it. Stanford scored in the mid-50s tonight.
Right.
There are a lot of reasons for that. At the tip of the spear, at the beginning of the javelin, it's Dalen Terry.
Right.
And Terry defensively really helps Arizona in the backcourt, whereas Koloko and now Ballo help Arizona extend the defense in the front court.
Isn't he the perfect fit on this team, Dalen Terry? I mean, he really, because when you think about it, you got a lot of guys that can score or need the ball to score. And that's not a bad thing. That's just called basketball. Bennedict Mathurin is a scorer. He needs the ball to score. Ąžuolas Tubelis, much the same way. Kirk Krisa is going to get his shot attempts one way or the other because the ball's in his hand and he's going to get his shot attempts. When you've got a guy like Dalen Terry that you can look in the box score and he gets three shot attempts, but he's got 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and he's guarding the other team's best. I almost said guarding the other team's best defender, which would be a heck of a trick. But I guess he could. But that's the kind of guy. A lot of times you don't see a roster with guys like that where you have somebody that's really willing to take, either designed to take that back seat or willing to take that back seat, Shu.
Yeah, and just do the glue stuff that makes your team better as a whole. But extend it a little bit, and the point is well made in the scroll about Dalen Terry. Half of that point is well made. The Larson thing is just, man, you start mouthing off about Swedes again. If you view this as motivation, then maybe you're looking at the long game here to make Larson better, and then ultimately we can appreciate that. But is there anybody on this team, and maybe that's the reason that the one player isn't here, that doesn't belong on this team?
No.
They all kind of fit.
You know what it is, too? There's no dead weight. And I hate saying that term. My mom always gets on me about it because she says it's condescending. You know what? Listen, if you're a scholarship basketball player, there's been guys in the past on good teams that have just kind of been dead weight. I'll throw one guy out there. Daniel Dillon was kind of dead weight. He tried really hard.
First it's Sweden and now it's Australia.
Yeah,
wow.
He tried really hard. But you know what? When Salim Stoudemire's coming out of the game and Daniel Dillon's coming in,
there's a little bit of a difference.
Yes. This team, though, if Christian Koloko goes out of the game and I got to throw in Umar Ballo for 8 minutes. I mean,
you think you got a chance.
I can go extended period of time right there. Oh, David, this is actually true right here. But not early on in his career. Isaiah Fox was good early on, but after that, he'd be Kirk Walters was kind of in that same. But
guys get that. All of the years that you play college basketball, that's going to happen right now. Arizona's lucky that doesn't seem to be the case here, and that bodes well for their fortunes as things move ahead. But, the larger point here, Mike, is that while the matchup for Stanford and Arizona is clearly problematic for the Cardinal, the Cardinal had coming into this game more quad one wins, whatever the crap that means,
saw that.
than any other team in the conference. They beat USC last week. I can see the way that they run their stuff, and if they're hitting from 3-point range, that they can be a problem, I think, for certainly a USC. We've seen that.
Right.
And I think they can be a problem if they can control their turnover issue for a team like Oregon. If they get into motion and things start to flow very well, they may be able to surprise like that. But Arizona certainly imposed its will tonight and did so more or less with its bench. They were without Tubelis. They were largely without Koloko. And it was Ballo, Larson, and Kyer was good tonight too. There were good performances 8 deep, and Arizona extended the lead consistently with 2 or 3 bench players getting long minutes.
All right. Here, need to give you a real quick COVID-19. If you haven't heard about COVID-19, you've probably been inside not watching TV for a long time. All right, so here's the deal. COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov for a location near you. I have gotten my COVID vaccine. John Schuster's got his COVID vaccine. So you know what? If you're looking to follow the leader and you're on the fence, what would Mike and Shu do? Well, I just told you what we would do. All right. So back to the game at hand right here. Let's get to some more of these comments. I think this is another great point here by our guy Kobe, and then we're going to get to some more. Thinking about it, nobody is selfish in this rotation. Ben took a charge and passes up shots to get his teammates up. Top 10 picks passing up shots and taking charges. Not a lot of those around. That's an interesting point because this is a guy that's going to be a top 10 pick. And when you look at his stat line generally, you don't see the numbers where it's like 22 shot attempts and granted, a lot of that's, because of how they play their game. But there's nobody on this team that you look at as being selfish. Or, you know what, if I don't get mine, I'm not going to be happy the rest of the game there, Shu.
Which is helpful. And he's shown versatility as well. And tonight was one of those games, and, players get this too. That the team across from you isn't as good as you are. And, you've got different ways to pile on. So sometimes you can play a supporting role and get other people who aren't consistently involved. I think the good news about Mathurin and perhaps some others on this roster, hopefully the Tubelis situation is not bad, and he will be in the lineup sooner rather than later. But we've seen Mathurin be quote-unquote selfish at a time when Arizona needed Mathurin to be a selfish basketball player. He was the guy who had to score. And if they needed a bucket, very often Arizona was able to get it. And he did that. Tonight, he did something else. He played good defense. He yielded to others and seemed perfectly comfortable within the flow of that. And you talk about Terry, you talk about Mathurin. There are guys up and down this roster who seem comfortable with what they're doing in the overall process, which is win basketball games and try to look convincing doing it.
Ryan DeMarco, another great man right there. This team still has so much room to grow. It's pretty crazy. And that's the thing. You watch this team and they still do dumb things, which kind of it's a really, really good team, but it's not a well-oiled machine. How about that? And that they have stretches, especially to start the game. Now, granted, they were overshadowed by Stanford turning the ball over at an absurd rate, but there's absolutely times where you're like, man, you're just careless with the ball. And, you're gonna slap me around there.
Not necessarily.
Oh, you are. Go ahead.
All right. I think a lot of that has to do, and this is a term that I've used in a couple forums.
Is this going to be a hot take?
Well, the lights in front of me are kind of toasty, so I might be sweating here any moment. But other than that, no. Arizona has lulls of death, not runs of death. We expect them to have runs of death, but I think Arizona basketball is kind of a lot like a racetrack. You're going to have your chances where you go down the straightaway, but you're going to have to downshift to go around the bends. And because they have so many possessions, consider if you look at a bunch of other, doesn't Arizona lead the nation in number of possessions overall and number of possessions under 5 seconds?
Under 5 seconds
like
is the one I've seen.
So what's going to happen? You have one team, let's say Stanford, we'll use them as an example, played them tonight, or Arizona. Stanford, if it's comfortable, is going to have 80 possessions a game.
Right.
Arizona, if it's comfortable, might have 130.
Right.
So in the course of 130, how many times are you going to look kind of bad for a while?
Right.
But the way that the system works is that when you go on those runs and get into the straightaway, you can pull away and then kind of just trade space as you work around the bend. It looks bad. It doesn't look exciting. It looks sloppy, but then you get into the straightaway again. And that seems to be
That's fair. I like that.
That seems to be so yes, you want them to be better. You want them to limit mistakes, but they have, and I hope they do, and I'm sure the coaching staff does as well. And against better teams, they're going to have to do that.
All right.
But they also have so many more possessions that there are more opportunities for them to create the illusion that maybe things aren't going as well as we think they should.
David Matola, and I think I got that name right. Arizona football under Sumlin ran a 5-second offense, dude. That is the line of the day, David. Absolutely fantastic. All right, we're going to do something different here now. Our good pal Anthony Tony Gimino is not here. We have a segment called Tony's Takes, where a little bit of the background here is that I like saying things, I like making proclamations, but I believe them. I don't just throw them out there for no reason. Anthony is the professional. Anthony is the guy that's like, whoa, pump the brakes there a little bit. So we're going to do a Tony's Take here where John Schuster is going to pretend to be Anthony Gimino, and I'm going to say something that I really do believe, and John Schuster is going to come back at it with what he thinks that our guy, Anthony Gimino, might say. Hold on, I got to find this cool little graphic right here because it's actually a lot of fun. As the kids would say, this is something that might be fire. Hold on, and now where is it? Where is Tony's Takes?
Do you want me to stall for you here a little bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not only fire, it's lit.
All right, keep talking.
Literally and figuratively.
All right, keep talking. I don't know.
It's that kind of graphic. Do you want me to just make it up here? I can do that if you want to.
Oh, I got it. We're good.
Oh, sweet.
We're good.
Okay.
All right, check this out. We lost 5 viewers during that. I apologize.
Oh, no.
Come back right now. Tony's Takes. All right. Mike Luke's first remark, and I believe, and I 100% believe this. This is the best U of A basketball team since 2002, 2003. I believe that this team can put more pressure on teams than some of those Miller teams. I think this is better than 05. I believe that this is the best team since 2002, 2003 when they were ranked number 1 for about 8 weeks. And what would you say there, Tony?
Well, Mike, let's just slow things down a little bit here, okay? I think Arizona is going to be judged on how it does in the NCAA tournament. Now, the 2005 team was very good. And some of the teams at Sean's peak were also very talented. So there's a lot of room to go. Yes, Arizona is playing very good basketball right now, especially on the defensive end. Dare we forget the defensive end? It's very important they play well on the defensive end. But just making that kind of wild proclamation at this point just might be too early to do, and we will ultimately have to wait and see until we find out at the end of the year how they do in the NCAA tournament. Because, Mike, that's where it matters.
All right, well, 2005 then. I love Anthony Humbert. I'm going to disagree with him here. This team doesn't have Mustafa Shakur. That team did have Mustafa Shakur. Anthony, I say that this team would beat that team. Am I stupid?
Of course you are. That's the only hot take I can agree with. By
the way,
as Tony Gimino.
CJ back real quick, just so you know, Anthony. Shu is pretending to be Anthony Gimino with the really low hat right now. So
he's got the wrong team, but it was the only one I could find.
Right.
But they're both World Series champions, and Anthony likes. I like Boston. Yes, I like Boston a lot. I really like the Red Sox. Boston is a very good sports town, and I'm going to wear neutral colors because I believe in professional journalism, and that's the reason that I will not wear one of your DraftKings T-shirts at this stage, even though I think they are very cool. But again, this comes down to tournament performance, Mike, and we won't know until the end of the year how that lays out and whether this team was better than some of the teams that you mentioned before, and you are, in typical Mike Luke fashion, undervaluing.
Yes. All right. Well, Tony, you can take your hat off now. Those were Tony's takes right there, superimposed by John Schuster. All right. So looking ahead right here, you know what I feel about this team, though? Oh, and one thing, too, that we need to talk about real quick. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Throw down $5 on a game. You get $280 in free plays if that team wins. And you know what you can do with that? You can go with, you can bet on Arizona. You can make things like that happen right there. And we've already told you, this is easy money right here. Take the Green Bay Packers to beat the San Francisco 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo will thank you for having faith in him to lose that game. It will happen. And I think John Schuster agrees with me.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
Okay, there you go. All right. You know what I do like about this team a great deal? This team will not – if there is a team that has a significant talent disparity or just isn't as good, they're not beating Arizona. I just don't see – I don't see – and we talked about this a little bit the other day. I don't see Arizona losing to any team in this conference really under any circumstances that isn't – USC, UCLA, or Oregon. Those are the only three teams. I can't see them getting upset by Oregon State or Washington or any of those bums. It's those three teams those are the only ones that I'm worried about.
Which is really good news if you want a high seed in the NCAA tournament. So, as long as they don't have a bad loss, and right now clearly they don't, and don't have a stumbling block like that in conference play, they're going to be seated favorably, which helps them make your case as far as a deep run is concerned, that maybe this is the best Arizona team in nearly 20 years, a case that, we'll still try to figure out as things progress. But nevertheless, yes, it's the way that they've played and based on what you and Anthony have talked about on a number of occasions in regards to margin of error, certainly plays into that. And it does look that way. Now, the thing is, Mike, over the course of the next, week and a half, there's going to be some really interesting basketball games there. And I guess you have to hope, because the string gets interesting. They played tonight. They play Cal Sunday. They're supposed to play UCLA on Tuesday, which I'm guessing is going to happen.
And of course, USC's it's a 9 o'clock tip-off, which
naturally
the majority of the nation won't see. But
right. And then they've got SC, and then they've got UCLA again. So what you hope doesn't happen with Sunday's game is that Arizona's looking ahead and kind of takes Cal lightly, and it just turns into a terrible performance. So that may be a really interesting one to test your theory. Tonight, I thought Stanford would make it competitive. Clearly, that wasn't the case. Cal is one of those teams that, can be competitive for a while, decent, and then probably fades against the top tier. But, we'll find out how Arizona responds. It has the potential to be a game where maybe Arizona doesn't play particularly well because they're just not paying that much attention. But if they can win it going away and then head into the big matchups that are ahead, that's just another thing that bodes well.
All right. Shu, can't thank you enough for hopping on. All of you people, this was awesome. Love the fan engagement. Tony's takes is going to take off no matter what Tony wants or not. Kobe, I love you. I don't see Cal giving us any bit of a run right there. We can continue that via Twitter if you would so like. But all of you out there, Anthony, Robbie, CJ, Chico, all of you people out there, and I know I'm going to forget a few because we've had quite a few comments. You guys are all the best. Ryan DeMarco, Steve R., Ricky Garrett for sure. You guys are the best. We appreciate you, and we will be back with you Sunday. That's actually, we'll be on, I think it's
Sunday?
Sunday. I think it's
Sunday?
Sunday. I think
Sunday,
it's a 1:30. I think it's a 1:30 tip, so we'll be on about 3:40 or so. Again, all you people out there, greatly appreciate you all. Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.